It's kind of amazing how some older games, despite being 10 plus years old, still look absolutely stunning. Not just good for their time, but genuinely impressive, even by today's standards. Meanwhile, in 2025, games like Mind's Eye get dropped unpolished and janky. So today, we're counting down 10 outdated games that still look amazing, and could easily put newer titles to shame. 10. DriveClub. DriveClub might have stumbled at launch harder than a drift gone wrong, but once patched, it looked phenomenal. Let's talk about the weather. DriveClub didn't just simulate rain, it turned every storm into a visual symphony. Water droplets realistically slid across windshields, sun glare blinded you after a downpour, and clouds cast dynamic shadows that moved with the wind. Every track was meticulously rendered, from Norwegian fjords to Japanese mountains, complete with changing time of day and weather that felt dynamic and alive. And inside the cars, fully modeled dashboards with functional gauges and reflections on glass that looked like real-world photography. Gameplay-wise, it was a mix of sim and arcade. Not as in-depth as Gran Turismo, but more grounded than Burnout. But visually, this game looked like it came from the future and somehow got lost on the PS4. 9. Ryse, Son of Rome. Ryse was a launch title for Xbox One, and it screamed, "Look what we can do!" And honestly, it delivered. You play as Marius Titus, a Roman soldier avenging his family across meticulously rendered battlefields. Armor clinks, shields splinter, and columns crumble with cinematic flair. Crytek used performance capture so well you could see subtle expressions during dialogue. The attention to detail was wild. Dirt on capes, embers floating in the air, blood that didn't just splatter, it sprayed, stuck, and stayed. The lighting, soft rays of sunshine broke through temple ruins and bounced off marble surfaces. Combat was simple, maybe too simple, relying on rhythmic executions that bordered on interactive cutscenes. But every slash and stab was choreographed like a ballet of brutality. Say what you want about depth, but Ryse made Rome look better than most history documentaries, and still holds its own in side-by-side comparisons with modern action games. 8. The Order 1886. Set in a steampunk version of Victorian London, the game dropped you into cobbled streets, gaslit alleyways, and airship interiors dripping with atmosphere. The thermite rifle? It launched magnesium powder you'd ignite with a flare, and you could feel the heat through your controller. Character models were ahead of their time. You could see pores, stubble, even the stitching in Sir Galahad's coat. And the lighting, dynamic, volumetric, and constantly shifting, made every scene feel like a film set. Was it short? Yes. Was it linear? Also yes. Was there more QTE than actual combat? Definitely. But it was so visually rich, you didn't mind walking in a straight line if it meant staring at a museum-quality environment. And even now, it still sets a bar that few games dare to touch. 7. Shadow of the Colossus. This game came out in 2005 on the PlayStation 2, and still somehow looks more artistic than some modern titles with photorealistic ray-traced mud. Shadow of the Colossus took minimalism to the extreme. No towns, no NPCs, just a desolate ancient world and 16 towering beasts you had to take down one by one. But that world? Vast, haunting, and drenched in atmosphere. The sheer scale of the Colossi was jaw-dropping for the time. You weren't fighting enemies, you were climbing living architecture. The fur on these creatures rippled dynamically as you held on for dear life. The camera would pan back to show the full scope of the monster you were battling, and it was all rendered on the humble PS2. The lighting was soft and dreamlike, using clever use of bloom and fog to create that iconic, melancholic look. It ran at 15 frames per second during some fights, but honestly, it didn't matter. It felt like you were in a myth. The visuals weren't just pretty, they served the tone, a crumbling, fading world where beauty and ruin were inseparable. Even with its technical limitations, Shadow of the Colossus was and still is a masterclass in using visual design to tell a story without words. 6. Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. Hellblade wasn't just a visual powerhouse, it was a psychological deep dive wrapped in Norse horror and indie ambition. Made by a team of just 20 people at Ninja Theory, it somehow looked and sounded like a AAA production. You play as Senua, a warrior tormented by grief and psychosis, journeying through a twisted mythological world to save her lover's soul. The standout visual? Senua herself, captured with groundbreaking facial scanning. Every twitch, tear, and tremble felt raw and unsettling. The environments blend real and unreal. Shifting illusions, symbolic imagery, and surreal landscapes blur the line between hallucination and reality. One moment you're in a forest, the next it's melting into fire and shadow. And the transitions? Seamless. And while combat is simple, every blow feels deliberate, every camera angle is intentional. It's one of the most immersive visual experiences ever made. And if you're enjoying this video so far, be sure to let me know by hitting that like button. 5. Killzone 3. Killzone 3 may not have been the biggest hit of the PS3 era, but it truly raised the bar for visual effects on the console, especially when it came to snowy environments and explosive set pieces. He returned as Shevchenko, fighting the Hellghast on their home turf, from frozen tundras to chemical factories. The icy levels in particular showed off volumetric fog, blinding snowstorms, and particle effects that made firefights feel chaotic and oppressive. Environments were packed with detail, fluttering propaganda banners, collapsing structures, and a color palette that somehow made space fascist grey look cinematic. The jetpack? It wasn't just for show, it added verticality to combat and gave you gorgeous panoramic views of the war-torn world. Weapons had punchy animations and real-time reflections, while Hellghast soldiers had some of the best character models of the generation, with glowing red eyes and all. Cutscenes were pre-rendered but seamlessly blended with in-engine assets. Combined with surround sound and tight controls, Killzone 3 felt like a sci-fi war movie you could actually win. 4. Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor. When Shadow of Mordor showed up in 2014, most people expected a generic Tolkien tie-in. The Nemesis system was the big draw, but it was wrapped in an engine that made Mordor look way more beautiful than it had any right to be. Volcanic skies, rolling ash, sun piercing through the smog. It was a grim, smouldering wasteland that still looked alive. Character animations were brutal and fluid, especially in combat. Talion could vault over orcs, counter with split-second slow-mo, and deliver executions so clean you'd think he had a subscription to Orc Anatomy Monthly. Capes fluttered, armor gleamed with grime, even the orcs had unique armor pieces and facial details depending on rank and role. Sure, the sequel added more flash, but visually the first game had restraint and clarity. Proof that sharp design can still outshine bloated texture packs. 3. Max Payne 3. This game was all about style. Bullet time wasn't just a gimmick, it was baked into the visuals. Every slow-motion dive sent shell casings flying, glass shattered in real time, and enemies crumpling with shockingly realistic ragdoll physics. The environments, from Sao Paulo's favelas to high-rise nightclubs, everything was lit and textured to perfection. Neon reflections, flickering televisions, blood trails across tiled floors. No surface was left untouched. The game used an advanced lighting system that made each level feel handcrafted and lived in. Facial animations were top tier, with Max's exhausted smirk and 1,000-yard stare doing half the storytelling. Transitions between cutscenes and gameplay were seamless, like you were stuck inside a fever dream that just happened to have grenades. The visual effects added to the immersion. Lens distortions, color bleeding, and film grain reflected Max's fractured mind. 2. Ori and the Blind Forest. Ori and the Blind Forest is what happens when someone paints a watercolor dream and turns it into a brutally difficult platformer. It's not just beautiful, it's painfully beautiful. The entire world looks like a living painting. Trees sway with ethereal luminescence, water shimmers with particle-layered lighting, and every background layer moves independently, giving the forest depth and soul. You play as Ori, a guardian spirit trying to restore balance to a dying forest. The story is simple but emotionally crushing, told through subtle animations and a sweeping orchestral score that somehow knows exactly when to punch you in the feelings. And the animation? buttery smooth. Every dash, climb and glide is layered with polish, from Ori's glowing trail to how the environment reacts to your movement. Foliage bends, lights flicker, and enemies burst into glowing fragments when defeated. Despite being a 2D platformer, Ori felt more alive than many 3D open worlds. It was one of the few games where players would stop mid-speedrun just to stare at the background and whisper, "Wow," then immediately die to a spike trap, again. Bonus entry, Batman Arkham series. A quick shout out to the Batman Arkham series. From Arkham Asylum's moody corridors to Arkham Knight's rain-drenched Gotham, these games pushed visuals and atmosphere hard. The capes flowed, punches had weight, and every rooftop glide felt real. Arkham Knight's Batmobile in particular transformed Gotham into a tech demo for reflections and particle effects. Number 1. Rise of the Tomb Raider. Lara Croft's 2015 comeback, Rise of the Tomb Raider, not only was a great action-adventure game, it was a masterclass in visual storytelling. This game took you from frozen Siberian peaks to lush, forgotten tombs and geothermal valleys, and each environment looked like a National Geographic cover with a lens flare budget. Snow deformed under your feet, trees swayed in dynamic storms, water rippled with physics-based realism, reflecting Lara's silhouette as she waded through cave pools. Speaking of Lara, her model was packed with detail. Wet clothes clung to her skin, blood mixed with snow and dirt built up naturally as she explored. Her animations were nuanced, from limping when injured to instinctively shielding her face during explosions. And the lighting? Unreal. Literally, real-time shadows, dynamic firelight in tombs, god rays piercing through overgrowth. Every element worked together to make each area feel sacred, lost, and alive. Gameplay balanced exploration, stealth, and combat beautifully, but the real MVP was the environment. No corner felt rushed. What other outdated games do you believe could put modern-day graphics to shame? Let me know in the comments section below. And if you enjoy gaming content, be sure to check out the videos linked on screen.